Downtown Miami, the Marlins and the Braves finishing off a 3-game series. And what a long, weird, tough stretch it's been for the Fish. They've dropped 7 in a row, 6 by 1 runs. The Braves have won the first 2 games of this series, and they meet tonight after a bit of a change in the Marlins clubhouse last night. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz joined tonight by Jeff Conine, along with Tommy Hutton. The news of the night last night, aside from the Marlins losing another 1-run game, the fact that the Marlins changed hitting coaches. John Maley out. Eduardo Perez is in. And I'll start with both you guys. Tommy, we'll go with you first. The reasons behind the move.
Well, I think you changed because a lot of hitters have struggled with runners in scoring position, and you hope a change in philosophy is going to help.
Okay. Jeff Conine, we turn to you. Now, you're a guy that played for a lot of teams, had a lot of different hitting coaches. How long before Eduardo Perez can have an effect on the Marlin hitters?
Well, that's an interesting situation, interesting question, because these guys actually grew up with John Maley in the minor leagues. Are very friendly with him. They've created a relationship. So Eduardo Perez is going to kind of take it easy, I think, this first week, show them that they need to respect him as a hitting coach, as their new hitting coach, and learn their personality and kind of ease them into it.
Let's talk baseball then. Job number 1 for Eduardo Perez and his hitters, go against maybe the best pitcher, the hottest pitcher in the National League, Jair Jurgens.
Yeah, well, by the way, Eduardo Perez, you have your hitters now going up against the guy who was the pitcher of the month for the month of May. Just 25 years old, Jair Jurgens. He is off to a tremendous year. He's second in the major leagues with that ERA of 1.65. If you remember, he started the season on the disabled list. He had an oblique strain, but the number I like, 24 strikeouts, just 6 walks in his 43-plus innings. He's a tough one.
Okay, one of the frustrating things, Niner, about this stretch, the Marlins have lost 7 in a row. They've been getting good pitching, good starting pitching, and especially good bullpen.
Well, there's a reason for those 7 one-run losses, and that is the bullpen. They've been keeping them close in games. Starting pitching has not been allowing that much, and the bullpen's coming in and giving them a great job. So the clutch hitting is the problem that the Marlins have been having, thus the change in hitting coaches.
To get to the bullpen tonight, the Marlins need Chris Volstad to have a good night.
Well, you'd like to see Volstad throw the ball the way he did in his last outing. He's pitched better at home this year and in his career. His last win, though, was April 26th against the Dodgers.
And we try to shake it up here tonight. Jeff Conine joins us for the entire evening. Should be fun. Marlins, Braves. Fish try to stop the streak. We'll meet the new guy, Eduardo Perez, when we return. Seven-game losing streak tonight. Let's start things out left field with Craig Minervini. Craig?
Rich, thank you very much, and good evening again, everybody. You don't know John Maley, but he was a very popular guy, especially in the Marlins clubhouse with the hitters, as you heard the guys talk about. He's just a guy that really taught him from almost the ground level up in terms of becoming a professional hitter. But the Marlins have got to turn the page. The players have got to turn the page because the organization made the decision to let Maley go after the game last night, and that's quite a jolt in the clubhouse. The man that will take over now is Eduardo Perez. You probably know him pretty well because he's been on national television doing a baseball show on ESPN for the last 5 years. You know him from his 13-year big league career. He's also the son, of course, of Marlins executive and Hall of Famer Tony Perez. And Eduardo told us he's been keeping a close eye on the fish.
Well, fortunately, being in a show like Baseball Tonight, I know pretty much all the 30 teams right now, and I've definitely been keeping track of the Marlins. Having, obviously, a connection here really helps. With my father, it really helps. We talk a lot about the organization. I follow these guys. I follow from Lomo to Hanley's situation to Coughlin and Mike. There's so many good players here, and right now it's all about having an attitude, having them, they got to get their attitude back. The attitude that we saw early on in the season is what they have to bring to the table now.
Eduardo had to wiggle out of a couple of jobs to take this one, the one with ESPN, and also he was a special assistant with the Cleveland Indians organization working in their minor league system. He'd make trips to AA, AAA, talk hitting and other things. He did both of those things. The Marlins are happy to have him as their hitting coach here to take over in June here and try to get him off the schneid, as they say. Time now for baseball and Game 3 of this year's tough matchup. Chris Volstead takes on Jair Jurgens and the Braves. Rich, Tommy, and Jeff with the call next.
Baseball on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by Toyota, moving forward, by AT&T, by Checkers, Little Place, Big Taste, and by All Your Cooling, today's comfort, yesterday's prices. Sun Life Stadium in Miami, the Braves and the Marlins. Atlanta comes in at 34 and 28. Here's the Braves lineup from Freddie Gonzalez, Jordan Schaefer in center, Alex Gonzalez at short, Brian McCann will do the catching, Chippers at third, Freddie Freeman at first, Eric Hinsky in left field, got Brooks Conrad, Matt Young, Jair Jurgens hits ninth. Martin Prado still out with an injury. Of course, Jason Hayward is on the disabled list, and Chris Volstead misses with his first pitch. Here's the 1-0. In the air to left, Morrison makes the catch.
Rich, I think a good example for Chris Volstad is if he watched Derek Lowe last night pound sinkers all night. Chris Volstad has a good sinker. If he uses that, gets ahead, throws strikes, he'll pick up a win. The last time he won was April 26th against the Dodgers.
So Volstad gets Schaefer. Here is Alex Gonzalez. Guys, in talking to some of the Marlin hitters, especially guys that had faced Lowe in the past, they said last night was the best they had ever seen his sinker.
And he's got one of the best. I mean, when he was a closer, I think, with Boston, for me, that was when he had his best sinker, because you go out there, you've got 1 inning to pitch. He's got a lot more velocity on it, and he was much more difficult to hit then than as a starter for me.
Greg Dobbs said it was such a good sinker, it made you think, is he cheating? And he probably wasn't putting anything on the ball. He said it was because of the wind. He likes the mound here, and he said the wind really helped.
I tell you, a lot of visiting pitchers comment on how well they pitch on this mound.
Chris Volstad familiar with this mound. This is his 85th career start. The breaking ball, and Alex Gonzalez fouls it off. Alex Gonzalez facing Volstad here. The count 0-2. This guy's been dialed in this series. Gonzalez 2 hits last night, drove in a run, hit the ball hard all night long. And, of course, his home run was the only run in Game 1 on Tuesday night. It's a good place to miss on 0-2, or on 1-2, and the count now 2-2 strikes.
Niner, I made the comment last night or the night before that really, I think over the years, Alex has become a much better hitter.
Absolutely.
Than he was when he was here.
Absolutely. I saw him early on when I actually went to an instructional league with him and Luis Castillo in 1994. And, folks, you would not have believed their range and the ability that they had to turn double plays back then, because as good as it was in 2003 during the World Series year, it was even better back then.
Right down the middle. Volstad gets a strikeout. And there are 2 quick outs here in the first. Here comes the defense for the Marlins.
Check in on the defense tonight with Lomo, Coughlin, and Stanton. What a play Coughlin made last night. Defense brought to you by Warren Henry, Dobbs, Bonifacio, and Fonte, and Gabby over at first. John Buck behind the plate. Yeah, that play by Coughlin last night was all over every station.
Almost identical to that play that he made earlier in the year. We played him back-to-back last night on the post game, and it looked like almost the exact same catch.
Here's Brian McCann. Had the night off in Game 1. Came back with a couple hits, drove in a run in last night's ball game. And a fastball is inside. McCann is a maybe the premier offensive catcher in the game right now. Headed to his 6th straight All-Star game.
Especially if you were to play against the Marlins the whole time. He loves hitting against the Marlins.
One, 2 coming. Got him.
Nice job.
Brought that fastball back. Sinker caught the corner. Volstad works a 1-2-3 first.
español vía Zap y es presentado por KFC.
Marlins and Braves, scoreless in the bottom of the first. Warren Henry brings you the Marlins lineup. Chris Coghlan in center field. Omar Infante at second. Logan Morrison in left. Gabby Sanchez is at first base. Greg Dobbs back in the 5 spot. Mike Stanton hitting 6th. John Buck 7th. Emilio Bonifacio slumping right now in the 8th position. And Chris Bolstad hits 9th against Jair Jurgens.
It's amazing. You look at the numbers and the record that Jurgens has put together. He's 25 years old, 44 career wins, 4-1 in his career against the Marlins with an ERA of 3.86. He is second in the major leagues with the ERA of 1.75, and in all 10 starts he's gone 6 innings or more.
And the last start was the only start of the year he's given up 3 earned runs. Every other start has been 2 or less.
That's because he was the pitcher of the month in May, and that was June. But boy, was he dominant in May. 5-1 with a 1.65 earning. Here's Coghlan with Omar Infante and Logan Morrison to follow. Jurgens, the native of Curacao. Coghlan pulls that one down the first baseline. Is it fair or foul? It's called a fair ball by the first base umpire, Jim Reynolds. So there's 1 out.
All right, Warren Henry will bring you the defense for the Braves with Hinsky, Schaefer, and Young in the outfield. Chipper and Alex. Brooks Conrad gets the start. Dan Ogla off tonight. Freddie Freeman and Brian McCann. We haven't seen Martin Prado the last couple of nights. He's still battling a sore knee.
Braves are hopeful that he's back in this weekend when they travel to Houston to take on the Astros.
Not really what you want to see from your leadoff hitter coming up against a pitcher like Jurgens, who does not throw many pitches in his starts. You want him to throw at least a few to get the feel of what he's throwing for the night, and 1 pitch outs are not really great for your leadoff hitter.
Yeah, in 5 of his 10 starts, he's been under 100 pitches. 0-1 to Infante. Eduardo Perez in uniform for the Marlins. Technically, mechanically, how does it work tonight? Does he talk to hitters after the ABs, or is he just observing tonight?
I think he's going to be more of an observer tonight. He's got basically 12 new personalities to learn, see how they tick, how they react to making outs, and know if he can approach them even after they make an out. I mean, for myself, I didn't want anybody to talk to me right after I made an out because I might have done something physical to them that might have got me in trouble. So an out later, I'm fine, but right then, I didn't want anybody talking to me.
1-2 to Infante. Good sharp ground ball that's just foul.
So it's pretty much not only learning batting styles and situations, but learning personalities too.
I think that's the most important part. That's the most important job he's going to have his first couple weeks, is learning what makes everybody tick.
Now, Eduardo Perez was in the big leagues more than 10 years, but he was not a star. He was not an all-star. He was not a guy that was an everyday player. Here's the 1-2. However, you look around the league and you find that most of the really good hitting coaches were not terrific hitters in the big leagues. Why is that?
Tommy?
Well, I think because they had to really work at it when they were players. If it came easy for them, like a Hall of Famer, and not to say that it comes easy to anybody, but a little easier for those guys.
That's a good point. I think expectations for a guy that might have been an excellent hitter in the big leagues for a long time, he expects his players to be able to do that without much instruction.
They said Ted Williams was not a good hitting coach, which is amazing.
Yeah,
right.
Go figure. He thought it was easy.
2 outs, and here is Logan Morrison. Now, Morrison was the most outspoken of the Marlins last night and even today at his disappointment that John Maley was dismissed. And I think a lot of it has to do with for guys like Morrison and Coghlan, Gabby Sanchez, Mike Stanton. He's one of the only hitting coaches that they've known coming up through the system.
And they've had tremendous success under his tutelage. So it's, I think John Maley was an extremely personable guy. I think they got to know each other very well. They had a great rapport with him. They can talk to him about anything. And it's almost like a friend has been fired and replaced with somebody they don't even know.
Here's the 1-0 pitch.
Tommy, who was your favorite hitting coach that you had in your career?
The guy that
and why
I worked with a lot was Billy DeMars. At Billy DeMars for quite a number of years. He was very patient. He'd work with you off the tee. He would reinforce you, let you know when you did things right, knew when to talk to you, not after you made an out.
1-1 pitch is a strike. Niner, how about you?
I mentioned in the pregame, Terry Crowley in Baltimore was probably one of my favorites. He was just very calm, had a very calm demeanor about the game, but 100% positive. He never dwelled on any bad swings that you took during a game. It was always that one swing. Even if you were 0 for 4 and had a horrible night, he would focus on that one swing that you did right.
1-2 pitch. Morrison, little flip of the bat out in the center field, then a base hit. Lomo is aboard. Up comes Gabby Sanchez facing Jurgens here.
Take a look at the scouting report on Jair Jurgens. Lots of strikes. He's around the strike zone with just about everything. Changeup's his second pitch. He has a breaking ball, and he adds some tracks. You hear us use that term. That means he takes a little bit off, adds a little to the fastball.
Braves just happy to have him on the mound and healthy. Gabby takes a shot at a high fastball.
One difference, talking about hitting coaches from years to years, generations to generations. Back in the minor leagues, coming up when I did, you didn't even have a hitting coach. They didn't have roving hitting instructors. You had your manager who worked with you on hitting, and some teams had a coach. But it wasn't a pitching coach, wasn't a hitting coach. It was usually an older player, maybe even a player coach at times.
Here's the 0-1. And you'll hear differing viewpoints in that some hitters like a guy that's into mechanics, some like a guy that's more of a sports psychologist or a hitting psychologist.
That, to me, I think, for my personal experience, was the most productive hitting coach for me. Was a guy that could get into my head and just get me on the thought process that made me successful.
Grounder towards short. Gonzalez, little flip to Conrad, and the inning is over. Marlins and Braves are underway and scoreless in Miami. – 50%. So the Tarp crew for the first time this year on their toes. We hope that it holds off. We hope that we have 9 innings of baseball tonight. Chris Volstad going right after Chipper Jones with a good fastball. And it's 0-1. Jones to be followed by Freddie Freeman and Eric Hinsky. breaking ball misses down low. Chipper still going strong. Surprising that he only has 9 career at-bats against Volstad. That's a pretty good pitch there.
Chipper had the quote of the spring for me. Someone emailed it to me on my phone, and I showed it around the clubhouse to the coaches that were in there. He was being interviewed by a guy in spring training, and they were asking him basically, why, kind of like, why are you staying around? Why are you hanging around? He didn't think he was, you've been hurt. Why are you still with the team? Is it a money thing? And the quote was, he goes, dude, have you seen my bank account? It ain't about the money. My teammates want me here.
Jeff, you talked about the first inning that Volstad had, and the 2 pitches that he made to Alex Gonzalez and Brian McCann weren't necessarily the strikeout pitches that were the important ones.
It's the pitches that get the hitters off the plate. You see this 1-2 pitch inside, see his feet move. All right, that's got his mind on an inside pitch right there. Ooh, he's coming in there pretty good with a sinker. As long as you can get, and here's another one, Brian McCann. He backs him up off the plate. Get their mind on something inside, and that opens up the outside part of the plate, which is very important for Chris Volstad.
Facing Freddie Freeman right now.
Well, you hear pitchers use that term so much that in order to have success, especially up here, you have to pitch inside.
I had a pitching coach in high school that would hand out quotes to us every week, and one of the quotes he handed me was from Sandy Koufax that said that pitching is the art of instilling fear.
And Koufax didn't have to pitch inside to instill fear.
I never faced him, but I saw some footage, and he looked pretty scary to me.
Of course, Jeff was a college pitcher at UCLA and did become a position player until the Royals drafted him in the 89th round long ago.
58th, come on.
Morrison makes a nice running catch on the warning track. That's a long way to go for a guy that's a first baseman at heart.
He's actually done a pretty good job, I think. There are some things that he really needs to work on. We saw the other night going back on a ball when he should have gone in. But right here, it's a long way to go. Your eyes are bouncing up and down, and to keep focus on that much distance is a good play.
And I'll tell you what, down on the field, it's breezy, too.
It is breezy today, very breezy.
Here's Eric Hinsky, and he takes outside.
So I think both the outfielders that have learned, Chris Coughlin and Logan Morrison, have made huge strides.
This offseason, the big talk was about how Chris Coughlin was going to take to center field, moving from left, and I think he's doing an outstanding job.
Well, there hasn't been any talk since the season started, which tells you that he's done a pretty good job.
Exactly. And there's been no talk about Mike Stanton. He's been doing a pretty darn good job in right, too.
Yeah, Stanton last year was impressive defensively. This year, I think the first month of the season was a little bit cautious because he was learning to play with some pain and some leg discomfort and didn't want to aggravate an injury. 3-0 pitch in the dirt, and the first base runner for the Braves is Eric Hinsky. Here comes Brooks Conrad with Dan Uggla getting the night off. Now, guys, Dan Uggla's one of our favorite players. Good guy. Love to see him succeed. But he comes into this series now with a batting average at 170. Tommy, you chimed in last night for what you've seen. Niner, what have you seen from Uggla?
I see a really uncomfortable hitter right now. He does not look like his feet are in the right spot. He looks like he's thinking about his hands. And I think a hitter, when he starts going into a funk, will start trying things and tinkering a little bit with their stance here, there, and they're getting further and further away from where they're successful.
And obviously the first time in his career that he's had a struggle this long, but he's sitting next to the right guy. On his left is the Braves hitting instructor, Larry Parrish.
But you give credit every time you talk to him. He doesn't say anything about how badly he's struggling. He's playing outstanding defense. We've seen him make a number of really good plays in this series so far.
Right, you don't see him playing with his head down, which the body language sometimes a player can give away what's inside of him by how he carries himself on the field.
A lot of lefties in the lineup. 7 left-handers in the lineup tonight for Atlanta.
And I don't know about you guys, I was a little surprised on the crowd reception that Dan Uggla got when he got to the plate last night. There was quite a few boos.
That surprised me. He did so much here. He was a popular player. Yeah, it surprised me.
0-2. And Volstad misses inside.
Another pitch in, though.
And remember, Chris himself said after that start in Arizona, where the left-handed hitters hit a couple of homers to the opposite field, that he had to pitch inside, that he had to do a better job of pitching inside.
And with an 0-2 pitch, you can go even further in right there. Not hit him, but I mean really make him think that he's got to be aware for that inside pitch.
Can a pitcher these days, like the advice your coach gave you, instill fear in hitters these days?
I think so. You know, I think they're a little bit quicker with the trigger of warning benches and stuff on intentional hit batsmen, but I think if you're in there a lot of the time and one gets away from you, then that's, you know, I think people believe that's part of the game.
I think you can, but I think it's harder now.
It is
than years ago. Yeah.
I mean, look at Pedro Martinez. I mean, one of the things that made him so successful, other than he had outstanding stuff, was people were afraid they're going to get hit in the neck every time they went to the plate.
And Chase Utley is a perfect example, but even Brooks Conrad is right up on the plate, hands out over the plate, and that's something that modern-day pitchers have had to deal with that pitchers 10, 15, 20 years ago didn't have to deal with.
I know, Tommy, I'm sure back when you played, it was if you were in the strike zone, you're going to get hit.
Yeah, if you stood as close as those two guys Rich has referred to, yeah, they'd back you off quickly.
3-2 coming. That means Hinsky's on the move, and Volstad strikes out Brooks Conrad. Good solid start for Chris Volstad. 3 strikeouts in the books. Marlins back to work against Jair Jurgens. This guy in July in the desert when baseball's biggest stars will gather for one spectacular night, summer's biggest event, as Fox brings you every thrilling moment of the 2011 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Coverage begins Tuesday, July 12th, live from Phoenix at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, only on Fox. When you have one of the lowest ERAs in baseball, I think you deserve to be there. Jair Jurgens lowered his ERA a tick by going through a scoreless first. He gets Greg Dobbs, Mike Stanton, and John Buck here in the bottom of the second.
Boy, in that All-Star Game graphic, they showed Adrian Gonzalez. What a year he's having in Boston.
Jurgens opened the year on the disabled list with an oblique strain. Of course, last year he had 2 injuries. He had a hamstring in April and then a meniscus injury in the middle of September and had to have surgery and missed the rest of the season. Dobbs squirts that one off the end of his bat, and Gonzalez flips it on over to first.
Still, for me, the best hands in baseball at shortstop, Alex Gonzalez.
It's a whole new ball game when you watch him make plays.
It is a crying shame that he has never won a Gold Glove.
Why hasn't he? Has it been just he's not spectacular? He's not as flashy?
I think he's as spectacular flashier. I think it's become kind of an offensive award, which shouldn't be. And I think the incumbents usually get a token vote rather than the managers or whoever votes on it really taking a look at who's done the best.
Coaches and managers in each league are the ones that vote on the Gold Gloves. Mike Stanton now, 1 for 5. That one was the 2-run single with 2 outs and 2 strikes in the 9th inning last night against Craig Kimbrell that sent the game into extra innings.
I played with a guy in Baltimore, Mike Bordick. 2001, he made 1 error the entire season.
Stanton breaks his bat, and Gonzo throws him out. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the Marlins. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. Accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Marlins. Who won the Gold Glove at short the year Bordick made 1 error?
Omar Vizquel. It was, I don't know how many in a row he had won, but Mike Bordick broke records for consecutive errorless games, chances handled by a shortstop, and did not win the Gold Glove. Fielding percentage.
There was a year that Ripken made 3, and the Gold Glove went to Ozzie Guillen, and Ozzie, I think, made 14 or 15 errors.
How about the year that Rafael Palmeiro only played 50 games at first base and he won the Gold Glove?
I'm not even sure it was that many.
Oh, my gosh.
That's why I like the Fielding Bible Awards that John DeHaan gives out with his panel of experts, because they look at a lot of the new metrics. They also, get a little of the old school stuff in there as well. So guys that have great fielding percentage that have no range, like a Kevin Kuzminoff at third base, don't necessarily with their 2 or 3 errors win the award over a guy, say a Ryan Zimmerman, who has a lot of range, who has 10 or 11 errors.
By the way, with Jurgens out there, we showed you on the scouting report how he adds and subtracts, and I think you've seen that. You've seen some guys get jammed. You've seen some balls squibbed off the end of the bat. It just gives you enough to keep you off balance.
Yeah, it's only you saw a changeup hit off the end of the bat at 84 miles an hour, 83 miles an hour. That's his fastball with a slight cut at 88. And that's just enough to get you off the barrel of the bat.
Originally signed by the Detroit Tigers and then traded to Atlanta for Edgar Renteria. Buck with a big swing and a miss. Full count, 3-2. That turned into a great trade for the Braves. They had a young shortstop, Yunel Escobar, in the system. And Renteria went to Detroit. And Jurgens, the Braves hope, will be part of their rotation for a long time. And he dialed up 90 on that fastball, strikes out John Buck. Scoreless ball game. ATLAT.com for your chance to enter the Play Catch with Gabby Sanchez sweepstakes. 2 lucky winners will be selected to play catch on the field with Gabby prior to the June 21st game against the Angels. Log on to JiffyLubeCatch.com today. Jiffy Lube, official oil change of the Marlins. Matt Young for the Braves with Jair Jurgens and Jordan Schaefer right behind him. I hate to say this, but this is starting to feel an awful lot like last night and the night before. Pitchers duels. Brad Hand, Tommy Hanson in game 1, and Ricky Nolasco and Derek Lowe last night.
And I think because of that, we talked about this last night too a little bit, Rich, that I think it puts more pressure on the Marlins pitcher who goes out there, because he goes out there and he goes, man, this offense behind me is really struggling. I can't give up anything. And I think it adds a little more pressure to the pitchers.
Brad Hand made his major league debut in the first game of the series. Gave up 1 hit, got the loss. I'll tell you what, in Fox Mo, Matt Young is pretty fast, and the next time you get a ground ball, you better not take your time with him.
Yeah, you got to eliminate that tap into the glove with Young running.
Jurgens takes a strike. Jurgens out of Curacao. Played for the Netherlands in the World Baseball Classic in 2006. Dobbs over to first. Some feel that Eduardo Perez is a guy that might be in line to manage the Puerto Rican team in the next World Baseball Classic, which is 2013. He has coached the Puerto Rican national team before, has managed in Puerto Rico. In fact, Eduardo was managing in Puerto Rico when Edwin was managing in Puerto Rico. They managed against each other.
I think they got a pretty good name over there. The Perez family name in Puerto Rico, I think, holds a little weight.
A little cachet.
I think the other thing, too, when you meet a guy like, first of all, it starts with Tony and his wife, Patuca, and then you meet their sons, Eduardo, Victor, another son, the older son, but when you meet them, you realize they've been brought up the right way.
Very, very nice family. Patuca has been, I mean, we've known her for a long time, and still asks every single day how the kids are, and like Tommy said, when you meet their kids, very respectful, very well spoken.
Jordan Schaefer up there, Volstad's 0-2 pitch. Put in play on the ground. Infante to his left. Chris Volstad. 41 pitches in. 3 innings in the book.
Is on the left there, 6'3", 215. The Marlins' first-round draft pick. Spent the last 3 years high school ball in Tampa after his miraculous story living in Cuba. Tried to defect more than 3 times. Was put in jail for a period of a month. House arrest as well. And he took a boat with 7 other passengers and made it somehow to Mexico and eventually a couple of weeks later to Texas into the U.S., where he spent the last 3 years in high school, picked up the language. We're going to talk with him in a little bit, and quite a miraculous guy. Hope you caught our interview in Marlins Live here tonight, guys.
Yeah, Craig, a good interview, and just listening to an 18-year-old who has gone through what he's gone through to get here and have success. If he has any kind of stuff in terms of pitching, he certainly will have the guts to go along with it.
Remarkable story, and remarkably well spoken for just leaving Cuba in at so recent time. His grasp of English language is outstanding. He conducts himself very well in an interview.
3 years in high school ball. Bonifacio rolls one to the left to Conrad, who just got there, and throws him out. One out here in the third against Jair Jurgens.
I had a funny thought, Rich, when I saw the youngster in the dugout talking with a lot of the media. 6'3", 215. You heard Craig mention that. He was standing in the dugout. Mike Stanton walked by, and he probably thought, gee, I used to be real big.
Yeah, you saw the highlights of him pitching in the Aflac High School All-Star game, and the guys that were around him were a head shorter than he was. But he's here tonight, and the Marlins hope to sign him, and hopefully in a couple of years he'll be on the mound here.
Not here.
Oh, you're right.
In the new ballpark.
You're right.
Can't wait.
Although there's thoughts that maybe the actual pitching mound might make its way down and into the new ballpark. Here's the 1-1. Volstad lines it to center. Schaefer won't get it. Bounces off of him. And Chris Volstad with a second hit for the Marlins.
One of the few mistakes Jurgens has thrown so far tonight, and Chris Volstad puts a great swing on it.
Volstad had a base hit his last time out. Tickets of America interactive poll. Best gauge for a middle reliever. Is it the ERA? Is it the holds? Is it the percentage of inherited runners scored? Is it the whip? Walks and hits for innings pitched. 789. Tommy and I had a little discussion in the pregame, and I think we agreed that it depends on what type of reliever you are.
I think I'm going with C.
A middle reliever. Can you call an eighth inning guy a middle reliever still?
No, I think that's your setup guy than your closer. I think middle relief 6, 7.
See, the eighth inning guy is more about holds.
So what about the long guy? Is he considered
he's
a middle
obsolete?
reliever?
3, 4.
Oh, come on. So there's only like 3 or 4 middle relievers that. But you're really narrowing it down.
Well, I mean, you asked me, and that's my definition of a middle reliever. And I think it's whole. I mean, I think it's percentage of runners, inherited runners scored.
Chris Coughlin's up there with Chris Volstad at first. Coughlin bounced to first. First time up, goes after a fastball, drives it to left. Hinsky on the track and makes the catch. Yeah, the Marlins' new ballpark. The media is going to get another up close and personal tour coming up next week of the new ballpark, as they put the finishing touches on the roof. The blue seats continue to pop up inside. And, of course, one of the last things they will do is put the actual playing surface down.
I think Frank reported last week 70% complete now.
Yes. Conte takes away, and it's 1-0.
Talking Tommy again about plus and minus off his fastball. Jurgens to me is extremely deceptive. When we were looking from up here on his linear delivery, he hides that ball really well, and all of a sudden it pops out of the side of his head. And I think that adds to his fastball. You know, they're swinging at fastballs like they're 95, and he's only hitting 89.
Then he gives you a good changeup with that same arm action as he did right there.
Wanted to make sure he had time so he could tuck his shirt back in.
It's all about the style. You got to look good out there too.
Well, and as well as a pitcher, you're required by rule to have that shirt tucked in.
Oh yeah, that too.
Remember, Dontrelle Willis had the hardest time keeping his shirts tucked in.
he almost needed tails on his uniform top so they could tuck him away in.
That wall came up a little quickly on Freddie Freeman there.
Dontrell had those long legs, and it seemed like, I don't know, it seemed like the shirt was real short.
Yeah.
It was always coming untucked.
Looking, oh, there's a wall there.
Freddie Freeman hasn't played a lot of games here in this ballpark. You go over to a ball in your home ballpark, you have a little better idea.
I remember Carlos Delgado. I don't know if you guys remember this. He went over and did a similar play, and we taped an outline of the guy that like at the murder scene where he fell down.
I think they did that with Cliff Floyd once in left field.
Taped it to the wall.
Yeah.
Infante battling here with the count 2-2. Got Logan Morrison on deck. Jair Jurgens looking for win number 8. This is only his 11th start. That ball's hit to left. And Hinsky in his tracks makes the catch. Marlins leave a runner. They've left 2. We are through 3. Scoreless. Tommy Hudd. We're joined tonight by Jeff Conine up here in the booth, a 3-man booth for the final game of this 3-game series. We figure we try to snap the skid the Marlins are on. We'd do anything to shake them up.
Trying anything here tonight.
What is that supposed to mean for me? Just the throw-in guy to try to shake things up?
No, it means you get a W tonight, you're right back in the same seat tomorrow.
All right. I'm in.
Chris Volstad is in right now, too, and pitching well. He gets Alex Gonzalez, Brian McCann, and Chipper Jones in Miami tonight. The Marlins and the Braves are scoreless. He struck Gonzalez out looking in the first. Breaking ball for a strike, and it's 0-1.
How much importance can we put on this phrase that we use a lot, Niner, the second time around? And in this case, you have veteran hitters, too, Gonzalez, McCann, and Jones.
Well, I think he did a really good job in the first time around of keeping them off balance, so they really haven't established a pattern off him yet. I think as a first time around of a lineup, when I hit, or when most hitters, they want to see what his pattern is going to be and establish what kind of fastball he has. I think that first time around for Volstad, he's established that he's got pretty good stuff tonight, so they're not really comfortable yet.
2-1. Got in on him again. It's 2-2.
So Volstad's plan should be keep them uncomfortable.
Keep them uncomfortable as much as you can. I think Alex wants that pitch back right there. That was kind of a mistake up a little bit.
That was about the same location that Gonzalez got the pitch from Brad Hand and hit it out. back on Tuesday night. Hand will make his next start as this homestand continues. The Marlins welcome in the Arizona Diamondbacks. Hand will get the start on Sunday against Daniel Hudson. Dobbs comes and gets a hop. One out in the fourth. Time to flip the phone. Let's do some trivia here. AT&T trivia question. First player to hit home runs in 3 consecutive World Series games.
A name came right to my head, and I don't know if it's right. Probably isn't. How about Andrew Jones?
He had that great World Series right out of the box, didn't he? When he was 19.
19. Yeah.
19. I remember watching that World Series. What a burst on the scene right there.
Of course, Andrew Jones out of Curacao. Much like Jair Jurgens. McCann was called out on strikes in the first as well. He pops it up. Bonifacio makes the catch. Chris just keeps rolling. Here comes Chipper Jones. Super Saturday is coming up this weekend, and the hip-hop superstar Jeff has performed with him many times. Ludacris, presented by your South Florida Ford dealers. Marlins and the Diamondbacks at 7:10. Marlin fans get a Thunder Stick courtesy of New Era Caps. 1-877 Marlins, or go to marlins.com.
I will tell you that my 13-year-old boy is going to be front row center for Luda, as he calls him.
Is that what he calls him?
That's what he calls him, Luda.
Luda.
I'm like, who? He said Luda, Dad.
Starting to mix the change up in second time around.
Yeah, good one there, and he got McCann to pop up on the changeup.
Chipper Jones takes it outside, and it's 2-1.
And Tommy, talk about that first time through again, and if you keep hitters uncomfortable and off balance, you get away with mistakes as the game goes along.
Tonight, too, when Chris has missed, he hasn't missed by much.
There's Fox Tracks. Full count. Freddie Freeman awaits.
Tell you what, over my career, we faced the Braves a lot of times, and this is one guy I never wanted to see come up with the game on the line late in the game. Chipper Jones is about as good as they come as finishing it off.
He's been the rock that was part of those 14 consecutive division titles.
Another good changeup by Volstad.
Yeah, Chipper, a 300 career hitter, 40 career home runs against the Marlins.
Yeah, but you think that's bad? He's done even more damage to the Mets. And it doesn't matter if it's Shea Stadium or Citi Field. 46 against the Mets.
Great job.
Struck him out. Chris Volstad, 4 very nice innings in a scoreless game. Quikrete. Visit Quikrete.com. Quikrete, it's what America's made of. And by Florida Power and Light, FPL is constantly working to make its system stronger, smarter, cleaner, and even more efficient to offer reliable service today and for years to come. Visit FPLConnect.com to learn more. Along with Jeff Conine and Tommy Hutton, Rich Waltz with you. Scoreless ball game. Jair Jurgens and the Marlins. And this series, this is game 3 of this 3-game set. This series, runs have been hard to come by for both teams, especially for the Fish as Logan Morrison steps out. The Marlins have scored 2 runs in their last 28 offensive innings. On this homestand, with runners in scoring position, the Marlins are hitting a .148.
Ouch.
Morrison, Gabby Sanchez, Greg Dobbs.
We're talking about Logan Morrison's comments on the fire hitting coach, John Maley, and how it affected him. You know, he was one of the closer guys to Maley, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts from here on out.
0-2 is fouled off.
Well, you know, his point was well taken. He talked about being a 22nd round pick, and he talked about the reason he's here is because he's had John Maley working with him on his way up to get here to the big leagues.
And I think Maley is held in high regard in a lot of circles, and I suspect that he'll be back somewhere working with hitters someplace.
Well, how about this? The Texas Rangers just fired Thad Bosley, their hitting instructor, and they're in first place.
Change happens in this game. Bosley replaced by Scott Coolbaugh in Texas. And, of course, Bob Guerin today, the manager of the Oakland Athletics, who have lost 9 in a row, was fired by his good friend, general manager and vice president Billy Beane, and replaced with Bob Melvin. Melvin named manager on an interim basis.
I played with Bo Mel in Kansas City.
I've worked with him in Seattle.
Great guy.
Good manager as
Yes.
well. He was supposed to be here this weekend to do some television work for the Diamondbacks.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Gabby takes inside. 2-0. Jurgens taking a little too long for Gabby Sanchez.
I think the amazing thing over this stretch is that in the 7 losses, 6 have been by 1 run. So it's not as if the Marlins are getting blown out of games.
That's a bolt to Chipper Jones. All right, let's answer the trivia question here. AT&T, we flipped the phone. First player to hit home runs in 3 consecutive World Series games.
I think I'm going to stay with Andrew Jones. Ryan Klesko. Big left-handed hitter.
That was in the 95 World Series. That was the 1 World Series that the Braves won. So Gabby's ball, the best ball that the Marlins have hit. Dobbs takes outside.
Niner, what's impressed you and struck you about Greg Dobbs from the beginning of spring training till now?
I tell you what, you know, we talk about routine and preparation. He is the most prepared player I think I've ever seen. This guy goes through a pretty extensive routine. I don't know if he was the same way as a pinch hitter, but it's remarkable. He's in the training room. He's in the weight room. I see him constantly preparing for his game, and you got to give him credit for that, and hopefully this lasts all year.
1-1 coming. Jurgens catches the inside corner. And that's exactly what Jeff has been talking about. Taking a little off the fastball. It came in at 89.
I would say, too, of all the Marlins hitters, I think Dobbs has the best game plan, when he goes up to hit.
I agree.
Change up.
Pretty nasty there.
And a good one. Down goes Dobbs. Jurgens chugging along in a scoreless duel. Intervening. Craig?
Rich, thank you very much. I hope you had a chance to see our interview with Jose Fernandez on our pregame here tonight as the Marlins draft pick. Talked about getting to the U.S. and achieving his dream here. First of all, being around the team, owner Jeffrey Lurie behind us. The guys are coming up to talk to you. How neat has this day been for you?
It's nice. I mean, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling that any person can have. I mean, it feels good. I feel very happy right now. I got this opportunity to be here right now, seeing these guys playing that close to the game.
You're only about 90 feet from the mound. How many times have you thought today, boy, what's it going to be like when I make my debut?
I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it a lot. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it looks good. I like it. I like the people. I like the fans. I like that. The teams. I like that clothes. I like what they do. So. I mean, I would love to be here one of these days.
There'll be a new stadium and new jerseys, too, but you're going to look great, I'm sure, in a Marlins jersey. All right, the story, you told me on the pregame, it was life or death on the boat. I mean, that's what you went through, and you were willing to risk what you thought was your life, seriously, right?
Yeah. I mean, you got to know that now. When you make the decision to get out of Cuba, it's hard, It's kind of hard, and you live or you die. That's how it is. I mean, you can die in the water, you can be dead. So,
How big was this boat, would you say?
Not big. Mostly 12 people fit in. Wasn't that big, though.
15 feet?
Yeah, 15, 20.
An old boat, or do you feel?
Oh, nothing new, what I mean?
Yeah, and a single engine?
Yeah.
Wow. And so was there any harrowing experience to get across? How long did that trip take from, and this was March of 2008, to get from Cuba to where you went near Cancun, Mexico?
That was like a day and a half. We went really slow. That boat didn't go fast, so we just gotta pray and think that if you make everything will be fun. If you don't want to die.
Good job getting here, and we can't wait to see you in the Marlins uniform. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, Jose Fernandez, guys.
It is a terrific story. The Marlins first-round draft pick pitched to his team in Tampa, Alonzo High School, to 2 state championships. Eric Hinsky here in the 5th. Chris Volstad just keeps pounding the strike zone. Rich Waltz along with Jeff Conine and Tommy Hutton.
And pounding it with sinkers, with occasional breaking ball, and with good changeup.
The Marlins may have lost 7 in a row, but they've been getting very good pitching from their starters and from their relievers. And that's what makes the 7-game losing streak, 6 of them by 1 run, so frustrating. Let's take a look forward at the Marlins' upcoming schedule. Arizona's in for 4. Closes out the 11-game homestand. We'll start every game with Marlins Live just as we look forward to the upcoming schedule. You can live forward with Just for Man hair color. And I know, Tommy, you and I are looking forward to the day-night doubleheader in Philadelphia next week.
Well, I know our biggest decision for that day and night is do we wear the same shirt?
You're going to have a wardrobe change in between games?
No, I think we'll go with the same one.
Brooks Conrad is up. Conrad, who made himself a pinch-hitting hero last year with the Braves, a guy that has had to fight to get to the big leagues, finds himself with the big league club again this year, has delivered another pinch-hit home run this year.
His body language in those last 2 pitches really illustrate how much Volstad's pitches are moving tonight. The first pitch was a fastball, and he rocked back like it was almost going to hit him, and it was over the strike zone. With the curveball there, same thing, the old rocking chair for another strike.
1-2, strike 3 called. Chris Volstad has it going on tonight here in Miami. The 6'8" right-hander in a scoreless duel. Our Subway 5th inning here in Miami. Runs and hits have been awful hard to come by. A cast of thousands here tonight, including our Fox Sports Florida crew. Marlins and Braves. Last night, 3-2 in 10 innings. Atlanta had a 2-0 lead until the very, very end, the bottom of the 9th. With 2 outs and 2 strikes, Mike Stanton drove one to right field to tie the game. But the Braves, to their credit, answered with a run in the top of the 10th. Marlins got a runner in scoring position in the bottom of the 10th, but couldn't get him home. And that's been the theme for the Marlins on this 7-game losing streak. Can't get him home. Brooks Conrad called as much as he could to try to get Freddie Freeman off that ball, but Freeman wasn't budging.
He wasn't going to move. I think the other thing about tonight, Rich, with these 2 pitchers, Jurgens and Chris Volstad, it's a great example of 2 pitchers at the major league level. Neither is throwing 95, 96. They're both pitching. I mean, they have good fastballs. There's no question in the lower 90s. But they're guys that are just pitching well tonight.
Location and deception, the 2 biggest words for me tonight.
John Buck takes a strike. Buck went down swinging in the second. Jurgens, a couple of strikeouts. He's walked nobody.
I got an age-old question for Niner. I thought of it after the first pitch that Stanton hit. Scouting report on a guy is lots of strikes. Roy Halladay, another example. So is it bad to attack on the first pitch?
it depends for me on what kind of stuff the guy has. If he's got a straight fastball that throws hard, I say attack, attack, attack. If you've got a guy that paints the corners like Jurgens does, you have to be a little more patient and try to wait for a pitch that might be over the middle part of the plate.
Sometimes with Jurgens, especially in the month of May, he was the pitcher of the month in the National League. You can wait for that, but you may not get it during your at-bat.
Those are the nights you're going to be. It's going to be a battle.
John Buck to left field. Busy night for Hinsky out there. And there are 2 outs here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Tomorrow night is a Jiffy Lube Fiesta Friday at 7:10. Diamondbacks are here. It's an all-you-can-eat night. Get a club-level ticket plus unlimited hot dogs, peanuts, popcorn, nachos, and soda, all for one low price, 1-877 Marlins, or go to marlins.com today. Here's Emilio Bonifacio, and it has been a struggle for Bonifacio. One of the bright spots for the Marlins in April and May, but scuffling in June. He's just 1 for his last 24.
You'd like to see him just come out of it a little bit, and he came into this game 5 for 10 against Jurgens.
When was the last time we saw Emilio bunt for a hit?
Doesn't do it as much as he should.
I agree.
At least 23 at bats, I know.
You look at that where the second baseman plays him, and that pull bunt that a lot of guys, the good bunters, know how to do is take it with him, and you get it by the pitcher, he's a guaranteed hit every time.
And with his speed, absolutely.
We've talked about it with Bonifacio. This is 3rd year with the ball club. He is a work in progress. He has made some progress. His strike zone is better. His pitch identification is better. And a good swing on that one into right field. Matt Young picks it up. Emilio Bonifacio has the Marlins' 3rd hit of the night.
I tell you what, it's actually a pretty good pitch. He puts a great swing on it, and I love more than anything the way he runs the bases right here. Takes a great aggressive turn, even though the ball's right at the right fielder. If he bobbles this thing at all, he's going to second base.
And that snapped an 0 for 18 that Bonifacio had.
Here's Volstad. He has one of the 3 hits. Jurgens splits the plate with a strike. It's 0-1.
I'm thinking of it with the Braves. How was your approach against Greg Maddux? Because he threw a lot of strikes.
Yeah, he was a guy that, and back then they were a little more generous in the outside part of the plate as far as strike zone was concerned. Usually get 6 inches off the plate, and those guys get hit it every time.
Chipper across the diamond. Jair Jurgens, 5 shutout innings.
béisbol está disponible en español vía Zap y es presentado por KFC.
With Tommy Hutton, Jeff Conine, I'm Rich Waltz. We join Cookie Rojas, Raul Stryker Jr. Hi, guys.
Hi, Richie.
Fellas, what's going on?
Jeff, how are you? How you doing?
Hola, Cookie.
Tommy, ¿cómo estás?
Hey, muy bien.
Cookie, in your time in the big leagues, I'm sure you had many hitting coaches. What happens to hitters when a team changes hitting coaches?
They put you in the bench. If you can't hit, they put you in the bench. But when it changes hitting coaches, of course, you know, it's always a bad moment for the one that leaves. But I think that this time we did a great acquisition in Eddie Perez. I think that he's very well knowledgeable, has a tremendous personality. He's a great communicator. He knows the game, he knows the league, he knows the players, and I think it would be easy for him to approach a player and recommend something, not to change him, but to say this can help you in your own style of doing things. And that, I think, will be good for this ball club.
And I think that will be his prized pupil right there, or the guy that he spends a lot of time with early on, and that's getting Hanley Ramirez back to where he was early in his career.
Who, by the way, we saw take some good batting practice today. Hanley did.
Yes, he did. And I think that is a great communication between him and Hanley. If he can communicate with him and sit down with him and talk about the game, about the pitchers that he's going to face, what kind of pitchers he's going to get with man on bases, what he has to do, Hanley's going to get out of it. He's too good of a hitter and too good of a player not to go out and get out of that slump. There's no question about that.
And he's on track, it looks like, to come off the disabled list when he's eligible in about 4 or 5 days.
Absolutely. I think that he'll be back, I think, by the time we play Philadelphia, I believe.
All right, guys, have a good show.
You too, guys.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Matt Young rolls that down the first base line, and that is going to be a fair ball, and that is how Chris Volstad loses a no-hitter in the 6th inning on a 75-foot dribbler up the first base line.
Well, first of all, Matt Young can fly. So once this ball got about a third of the way up the line, there was no way you were going to throw him out at first. And I'm amazed that it stayed fair. Once it goes foul and comes back. But it didn't give John Buck time. And it may not have gone foul that much.
These chalk lines are actually painted on, and they're a little bit depressed in the dirt. It's not like it's a flat surface. So you saw it hit the outside ridge of that and go back in toward the grass.
So Young is aboard, and now Jurgens shortens the bunt. Top of the order, Jordan Schaefer and Alex Gonzalez behind Jurgens. Volstad has to be careful that Young doesn't bolt on him. It's one of the things that Chris has really worked on this year after last year, in which teams ran wild on him. There's the bunt. Gabby Sanchez picks it up, and he will tag Jurgens out. So the Braves push Young to second, and they get their first runner in scoring position of the night. Freddie Gonzalez, his first trip back as the skipper of the Braves. Of course, the Marlins saw Freddie and Carlos Tosca in spring training as well. The Marlins have been to Atlanta already once this year, but it was a little bit awkward and a little strange to see Freddie come out in a Braves uniform and talk to the media in the other dugout.
That's baseball. I mean, you could wear one uniform one day and you're in the other dugout the next.
And that kind of goes along with the topic of changing hitting coaches and the young players like Lomo and Coughlin just getting used to change.
Tommy, did you ever have any managers fired in the middle of a season when you played?
Oh, yeah. Had Frank Lucchese was fired, and Paul Owens actually came down as the general manager and managed the team the rest of the way.
Jordan Schaefer at the plate. Matt Young at second. Volstad has retired Schaefer both times. He lined to left and bounced to second.
It's the first time the Braves have gotten a runner into scoring position, and the Marlins have not gotten a runner in scoring position.
Here's the 1-1. Do you think, guys, as well, that the Marlins are such a young team? They have some veterans sprinkled in there. That for the young players that came up with John Maley, and when they got to the big leagues, he was here as the hitting coach, all of a sudden realize that now that they're in the big leagues, their actions, they're accountable I mean, that people can lose their jobs if A, a player doesn't perform, B, a team doesn't perform. Maybe that's the first time that these young players have tasted that.
Yeah, I was talking in the clubhouse, and minor leagues is all about development and how we get young players to the big leagues. When you're in the big leagues, it's all about W's and L's. If you win, you got a job. If you lose, you're not going to have your job for very long.
A lot more scrutinized at the big league level.
And we've heard Logan Morrison's comments saying it wasn't his fault. Speaking of John Maley, it's not his fault. It was our fault. But at this level, someone's going to take responsibility. Someone's going to take the blame. You can't fire the players, so you go to the next level.
And you know what? Maybe that alone will get some of the young hitters thinking a little bit.
1-2 breaking ball is fouled at the plate. You look at some of the individuals on the Marlins, and their numbers are very good. Gabby Sanchez is having a year worthy of all-star consideration. Logan Morrison as well. Mike Stanton has driven in 35 runs and hit 13 homers. Well, I think the biggest frustration for the ball club, and it's really been evident in this 7-game losing streak, is situational hitting, especially hitting with runners in scoring position.
And that's where inexperience really comes to play. I think having a plan in those situations is so evident when you get a veteran up there that really knows what he's doing. On a man on third with less than 2 outs, he knows how to get that guy in. And you've seen our guys, just change their approaches so much to they're pressing so hard to get that guy in. They're actually altering their mechanics.
And a good at bat here for Jordan Schaefer. Volstad checks Young at second and got him. That comeback fastball has been Volstad's go-to pitch tonight.
It's been very impressive.
We mentioned Greg Maddux earlier, and that was his bread and butter all those years with the Braves. Start that fastball there, bring it back on the inside corner, and left-handers just freeze up.
This is exactly what Chris Volstad told us last week that he had to do more of, and that is pitch inside.
Effectively. Pitch inside effectively. When you're ahead in the count, back him off the plate a little bit. When you're at a pitch like that, 1-2, 2-2 count, after showing them other stuff, you hit that left hip or that right hip of a left-handed hitter, and it comes back over the plate for a strike.
The other thing that impressed me is that he's rebounded after that little infield base hit that broke up the no-hitter. He's rebounded with good pitches.
Well, it just goes to show you, too, how tough a no-hitter is to get in the major leagues.
Absolutely.
Breaking ball, fly ball. Morrison back. Track, wall, off the wall. And the Braves have a 1-0 lead. And a guy that has hurt the Marlins in each game of this series, their former shortstop, Alex Gonzalez.
He had a couple of hits last night. He hit that home run in the first game of this series, the only run of the game for the Braves. And he takes a breaking ball there. Not a bad pitch, could have been a little bit better, but still, when you're a hot hitter, you hit it that way, just out of the reach of Logan Morrison.
So the Braves have their first 2 hits of the ball game and the first run of the game. 10 doubles for Alex Gonzalez. Now Brian McCann in an RBI spot. He's driven in 32 of them this year. Pulls it on the ground. Gabby Sanchez with it, steps on the bag. Braves on the board first. Marlins trying to avoid a sweep. It's 1-0. Cam, take it away, Tommy.
All right, we're going to show you how far Lomo had to go on this ball hit earlier in the game, all the way into the corner. I can't even take it that far.
But Morrison, a converted first baseman, made the catch. And that is the Frost Brewed Coors Light Freeze Can. Along with Tommy Hutton, Jeff Conine, Greg Minervini down below, Rich Waltz with you, 1-0. Atlanta on top, and this feels an awful lot like the first two games of this series. The Braves 1-0 winners on Tuesday. Last night a 3-2 win. And the Marlins, who have dropped 7 in a row, 6 of those losses have been by 1 run.
Is that some kind of record? It just doesn't seem like that's possible.
Jair Jurgens faces the top of the order. Coghlan, Infante, and Morrison. And a strike from the 25-year-old out of Curacao.
Not even last night, Rich. Ricky Nolasco, 7 1/3, gave up just 2 runs in his outing.
Brad Hand in his major league debut gave up 1 run, 1 hit in the first game of the series. Just look at Hand. He'll get a start against the Diamondbacks, who are coming in. 4-game series starts tomorrow night. One. And it's down low. Jurgens is part of a very good Braves rotation. And you compare the Braves and the Phillies. Rotation, you've got to go with the Phillies. But having watched the Braves and their bullpen, I think the Braves may have a better bullpen than the Phillies. Coghlan hits a pop-up. Chipper Jones makes the catch. All right, Jeff Conine is here. We put him to work. Go ahead.
FoxSportsFlorida.com has the latest news surrounding your favorite Florida sports teams. Log on for post-game coverage from tonight's matchup. Read how LeBron James sees himself as one chapter in this novel. And for more Heat coverage, check out your NBA Finals Central. It's all on FoxSportsFlorida.com. Log on now.
You're going to have to turn in your lifetime membership
to the Hitters Guild.
The Hitters Guild. Now that you've become,
you will carry another card now. You'll have another
multiple cards.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like my wife's multiple credit cards. I don't like that.
Omar Infante with a count 0-1 facing Jair Jurgens. Marlins have a measly 3 singles. The Braves only have a couple of hits. But Atlanta has the only run. Freddie Gonzalez, his ball club has not scored a lot of runs lately. But I think that's the impressive thing about the Braves right now, guys, is that they're not scoring runs. Jason Hayward is out. Martin Prado's out of the lineup. And yet they're 34-28 right now.
Well, you look at the stats for pitching staffs in the National League and who sits on top. The Atlanta Braves.
Just like when you played.
Indeed. They were there perennially for about 10 years. I was in the National League. Because of those 3 guys. Remember those 3 guys they had that were pretty decent?
They're pretty decent, yeah.
It's a shame because of the way they retired that they won't all 3 go into the Hall of Fame the same year.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Because they're all going in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, maybe if the voting one way or the other pushes a guy back a year or 2, but it would be fitting if they were able to all 3 go in the same year.
Well, and in my opinion, they're all first ballot Hall of Famers, but it probably won't happen that way.
You don't think they'll make the first ballot?
I think they should. I think there are guys. We talked about Joe DiMaggio wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. We had a list of some guys the other night. Yogi Berra, Harmon Killebrew did not go in on the first ballot.
I think the only possible question mark would be John Smoltz. Maddox and Glavine both 300 wins in their career, and that's kind of the benchmark for a Hall of Fame pitcher now.
Logan Morrison bounces out. Jair Jurgens looks like one of those old Braves pitchers right now. 1-0 lead. Another pitcher's duel here tonight in Miami. Chris Volstad, Jair Jurgens, as Chipper Jones looks at a breaking ball for a strike. Jones behind in the count, 0-2.
Not sure if Chipper's flustered with himself or that call.
Mike DeMuro behind home plate. Little tapper, tough play for Dobbs, and Chipper's got himself an infield hit.
So 2 of the 3 hits have traveled about 60 feet.
This is a do-or-die play for Dobbs here. He's got to come in, and barehanded is probably the only way he'll get Chipper, even though he doesn't run like he used to. He still gets down the line pretty good.
He's running better than we've seen him over the last couple of seasons.
He has not looked comfortable and had good swings tonight. He gets a base hit there, but that just describes the kind of stuff Chris Volstad has.
Now Freddie Freeman with Eric Hinsky on deck. Jason Hayward out with a shoulder injury, and he's a ways from getting back for the Braves. He has yet to begin to swing a bat. Yesterday, Chipper Jones talking to the media, talking about, for a young player, the learning curve as to learning how to play with pain, learning how to play with an injury. Swing and a miss, runner moving, and Chipper is out by a bunch.
You could see the frustration in Freddie Freeman when he swung through that ball, knowing that a play was on and Chipper Jones was on the move. His job, make contact. Once he didn't make contact, he knew that Chipper Jones would be out.
Volstad, another outstanding changeup. His changeup tonight has been best I've seen it this year.
Ball and a strike to Freddie Freeman. Now, some media outlets made it out to be Chipper calling out Jason Hayward, but Chipper said no, he was just talking about even when he was a young player, he had to learn that everybody out there is playing with some sort of ailment, some sort of ache or pain. And Jeff, you talked earlier this season about Mike Stanton learning to play with a leg injury and learning to play under control.
Yeah, you know, you get to a spot where, okay, if I can go out there right now and play it at 80% and do a good job and help my team, but if I push it to 83%, I might blow out and be lost for a long time. He needs to learn that I can keep it at 80% and know how to keep it at 80% so I can still be a productive player and not hurt the team by getting injured for a long period of time.
Yeah, and I think it was a lesson well learned by Mike Stanton, and it's something he's going to remember his whole career.
And that was the quote, I think, that Chipper pointed out. Jason Hayward said, "I'm not coming back until I'm 100%." And Chipper said, that was probably a mistake to say that, because none of us are 100%.
We're never 100%.
You'd like to ask Chipper how many games he played at 100%.
Yeah, he's played 3,000 games. He's probably been 100% about 2 of them.
Freeman singling to right. Here is Hinsky, who was walked and bounced to second. Chevy standings, they have changed dramatically for the Marlins, who have dropped 7 in a row and now are just 2 over at 31 and 29 to the Phillies with a 3-game lead. A great trivia question that my partner Tommy Hutton pointed out a couple of days ago. Of those teams in the East, who scored the most runs this year? Who has the best offense?
Yeah, it's still the Mets that scored the most runs, who are just 2.5 behind the Marlins right now. But it's been that way in the whole division. We've talked to Freddie about it. The Phillies aren't scoring a whole lot this year.
Charlie Manuel will tell us that when we get to Philadelphia.
He's an offensive guy.
And when you look at all 5 teams, there's only 20 runs that separate top to bottom. So the runs have been spread out pretty evenly in the whole East Division.
And for the Marlins, it's getting the runs at the right time, and that's been the big frustration of late. I mean, this is a team that went into San Francisco and swept the Giants. The Giants have been going gangbusters since then, and yet the Marlins have hit the skids.
2 teams that have scored the most in the National League, St. Louis and Cincinnati.
Yeah,
pretty high-powered offenses there.
St. Louis has been a juggernaut with Lance Berkman getting off to the start that he's been off to, and now Pujols all of a sudden is back to being a machine.
Back to being Pujols.
That's right.
Berkman took care of Bud Norris's no-hitter.
That was close.
And Matt Holliday, don't forget about him.
And he's been on the DL a couple of times. Yeah, Berkman hit a home run off Bud Norris in the 7th inning in Houston. Bud Norris, the right-hander with the Astros. Ended up going 8 innings, giving up a hit and a run.
Chris with a good fastball in on the hands of Eric Hinsky. The story tonight has been pitching. Chris Volstad had a no-hitter going into the 6th. He's at 100 pitches now. His no-hitter was broken up by Matt Young. The rookie rolled one up the first baseline, and with Young's speed, John Buck, the Marlins catcher, hoped it was going to roll foul, and it didn't. Got him with a breaking ball.
You know, a great play on that, a ball like that, maybe not on Young because he is so fast. When you don't think you've got a runner, pick that ball up and drill him right in the back, because they will call interference every single time.
Because they're usually inside the line.
Every time.
Remind me not to be the runner when you're catching. Stop by any Metro PCS store in Miami, Broward, or Palm Beach before July 10th to register to win a trip for 2 to see the Marlins in San Diego. That's a great road trip. 19th to the 21st of August. Airfare, hotel, tickets to all 3 games. Tommy will take you to the Tin Fish for fish tacos. Stop by your
why not?
Local Metro PCS store today. Metro PCS wireless for all. See, I would be in the running lane, but neither you would still drill me, right?
Well, I mean, if it meant an out or not, probably. I'm sorry.
Yeah, people don't realize if you watch a game, it's hard to come out of the box and run within that lane. So just about everybody goes up the line inside the lane.
Well, I think the rule should be changed. If you look at the bases in fair territory, you're supposed to have both feet on the foul territory side of the line as you go up to the baseline.
Yeah, if you ran inside, you might miss the bag.
Yeah.
100 years ago, they had the bases that were in both fair and foul territory. Some of the bases you've seen in Little League.
Now don't ask if I remember them. All right.
Tommy, you remember they went to one base?
I know you did not play in the dead ball era. Well, Freddie Freeman ran into the wall earlier in the night, and that one got him right in the ribs. A pickoff throw by Chris Volstad. Brooks Conrad at the plate.
Boy, another good changeup.
Outstanding changeup tonight.
You know, the Braves have 2 guys at second base who have had their biggest defensive meltdowns on a national stage. Uglas at the All-Star game, and Brooks Conrad last year in the division series against the Giants. Of course, Conrad was at second because Martin Prado was injured. Chipper Jones was injured. In fact, it's amazing that the Braves won the wild card without Prado, without Chipper, and without Jair Jurgens, who was out from mid-September on.
I think they were doing everything they could to win it for Bobby Cox his last season as the Braves manager.
Conrad jumps on that one. Stanton over to cut it off. Freeman on his way to third. And the Braves are set up at the corners with 2 outs here at the top of the 7th.
Aside from the Alex Gonzalez double, this one a hardest hit ball, and it's also one of the few mistake pitches for Volstad tonight. He got that fastball up, and Conrad absolutely crushed it.
Well, you've got Young up now.
Got to be alive for a bunt here, too.
Marlins have struggled with runners in scoring position. JM Lexus presents leaders of the game. Here are the teams that have not struggled. Look at the Cardinals and the Reds.
Those 2 teams we just talked about.
But look at the Braves at 271. JM Lexus, price made us #1. Click jmlexus.com to find out how. Randy St. Clair, the pitching coach of the Marlins, out to talk to Chris Volstad.
And when I said watch out for the bunt, certainly not a squeeze or 2 out, but we saw the speed of Young, and it's part of his game. And with a man at third, you always have to be alive.
The Braves getting by not only without Jason Hayward, Nate McLeod is injured as well. Marlins without Josh Johnson. Everybody has injuries. Marlins especially hit hard. A young team that doesn't have a lot of depth, losing their ace, who is on the disabled list, and there's no timetable for his return. Donnie Murphy, an injury early in the season. And, of course, the all-star shortstop, Hanley Ramirez.
Watching him take ground balls today, Perry Hill said that it was the best fundamentally sound round of ground balls he's ever seen Hanley take. They did all kinds of different situations out there with just calling out man on third, nobody out, different situations, game speed, and he said he was absolutely perfect. So he says he's ready to go.
And it was also encouraging watching him take batting practice, too.
But the Marlins are going to need Hanley of 09 and Hanley of 08, even Hanley of last year. Not the Hanley this year that has been hitting in the low 200s. And like some of his teammates, struggling to drive in runs.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, you talk about Marlins offense, you're talking about Logan Morrison, you're talking about Gabby Sanchez, you're talking about Mike Stanton. Even when Hanley was in it, you weren't talking about him. So if they can get him back in the conversation, that's going to be a big boost to this offense.
Volstad with a changeup to get strike 2 to Matt Young. Big moment here. Marlins down a run. Edwin Rodriguez has Volstad pitching to the number 8 hitter, Matt Young. Brooks Conrad at first. Freddie Freeman at third. And the 1-2 from Volstad. Almost got him, and it bounces off of Buck's glove. And scoring is Freeman. Buck may have had a play once he picked the ball up, but he didn't throw to the plate. And in a game like this, a 2-0 lead feels like a 5-0 lead.
Well, one of the few really errant pitches, a pitch that we'll see if it could have been caught. But when it's up in that area, catcher lose sight of it, and when it's a fastball, it's hard to get to for a catcher to go up with his backhand. But a fastball that gets away from Volstad and John Buck. Freeman hesitates a little bit, possibly with a play, but I don't think they would have gotten it.
Conrad is now at second. Buck has to smother a breaking ball, and the count goes full at 3-2.
The two big mistakes Volstad's made in this inning is those inside fastballs that we'd seen him pitch so well for 6 innings. That right hip of the left-hander coming over the inside corner gave up the bullet base hit to right field on one that got up and out over the plate, and that one right there almost hit him in the head.
There's a fly ball towards the Braves bullpen. Now the situation, you've got first base open, you've got the pitcher on deck, but Freddie Gonzalez has a reliever up in the pen.
That's a decoy.
I know.
That's a decoy.
Jurgens has been throwing.
He's not going to bring George Sherrill into this game.
Which is my point, in that you've got first base open. So if you're Volstad, you can try to make a perfect pitch here.
You look at the scoreboard, Jurgens got 71 pitches.
Buck hangs on to that one. And Jurgens on his way out to hit.
It's one of those poker hands you could have called Freddie on. And I think Edwin knew that too.
I think one of the Mermaids might have known that one.
Yeah,
that's a pretty easy call.
Well, the Mermaids and the Manatees, they were all over.
Or DJ Petey.
If that were the
Rich's favorite.
If that were the case, why throw the pitches to Young, one of which was a wild pitch, and cost them a run? I know first base wasn't open at the time, but
you got to a point where you had a couple of strikes on it. So and you're talking about a guy who came into the game 2 for 22 or 3 for 26 coming into the game.
And do you do it with only a 1-run lead instead of a 2-run lead? Does that change Freddie's thinking?
Well, it's Jurgens. Conrad's at second. Young's at first. And Jurgens dumps one over the head of Infante. Up with the ball is Coughlin, and the Braves have another run. Now, all the strategy in the world doesn't work when a pitcher fists one out into center field.
It's only the third hit of the year for Jair Jurgens. And again, though, this inning he's probably thrown more pitches up. Even though he got it in, it was up and allowed Jurgens to get to it. And that one really hurts.
Yeah, he made more mistakes this inning than all the rest of the innings combined.
So a scoreless duel has turned into a 3-0 Braves lead. In the 7th in Miami, a Marooney called to the pen.
When you need a car, truck or van, who you gonna call? Marooney!
Three runs. Edward Mujica out of the Marlins bullpen. With runners at the corners. And Jordan Schaefer. Braves center fielder up.
This is the one thing the Marlins have not been able to do during this losing streak, is string a number of hits together in one inning. Like we've been saying, they've gotten a ton of base runners by singles or walks and get men in first and second, but they can't string any hits together after that. The Braves have done that well in this inning.
As we showed you moments ago, the Braves second in the National League with runners in scoring position.
Well, in this inning, too, he ended up with 113 pitches. Chris Volstad, that's a season high for him. But as Niner said, he made more mistakes with pitches up in this inning than his entire 6 innings prior.
And you both pointed out that for the Marlins right now, a 7-game losing streak, 6 one-run losses, an enormous amount of pressure is building on the starting pitchers because they feel they almost have to be perfect to give their team a chance to win. And in Volstad's case, right now
he's thinking just that.
He didn't get any runs. Mujica buries that one inside. Mujica, one of 2 relievers that the Marlins got from the San Diego Padres. For outfielder Cameron Maben, Ryan Webb the other. Webb and Mujica, both nice additions to really a rebuilt Marlins pen.
And a bullpen that's been terrific in June, even though the Marlins haven't won a game this month.
And it's a bullpen that tonight is without Leo Nunez. Remember last night, Nunez was warming up, and it looked like he was going to come in to pitch late in the ball game, but never came in. His last warm-up pitch, he felt something in his back, and he's out 2 to 3 days until his back settles down.
I think one of the differences this year in the Marlins bullpen is you've got 2 or 3 guys that can step into that closer role that has that kind of stuff. I mean, Ryan Webb, extremely hard sinker at 95 miles an hour. Mike Dunn has emerged as one of the better power left-handers in this bullpen or in this league. So they've got guys that could fill those shoes a little better than last year.
Marlins are without Clay Hensley right now. He's still on the disabled list with that sore right shoulder. Schaefer battling. Mujica's 3-2 coming. Got him. Struck him out. But the Braves put 2 more on the board. 7th inning stretch in Miami. 3-0 Atlanta.
Hanley Ramirez. Want to show you the encouraging video from today where we saw Hanley get out there. Yesterday hit off a batting tee for the first time. Today, terrific fielding work in the field, and also he had a chance to hit and take some batting practice for the first time. That went well too. And I talked with Edwin Rodriguez a little bit after the guys left the field today, a little after 6 o'clock, and he said Hanley will play in Jupiter tomorrow night. That's Friday. In fact, he went over to ask him, then came back and told me that. And he may even play Friday and Saturday, and if all things go well, everything points to a Tuesday return for Hanley Ramirez. Much needed for the Marlins.
All right, thank you, Craig. Dan Ugla in the ball game. And he comes in for Brooks Conrad. Ugla coming in as a defensive replacement.
Has that too much in his career. Actually, I don't remember it ever happening when Dan was a Marlin. But he comes in for Conrad, and Jurgens is still out there.
Probably because he didn't come out of many games at all when he was a Marlin.
That's right. He played all the time.
The Marlins really have not been able to dent Jair Jurgens, who, as Jeff Conine and Tommy Hutton have pointed out throughout the night, is killing the Marlins softly. Not overpowering, just a couple of strikeouts, but lots of ground balls, lots of uncomfortable swings.
If you compare the two styles of Jurgens and Volstad tonight, kind of similar for the first 6 innings, where you saw, I don't know if it was getting tired or you saw a lot of this pitch start to be elevated in the 7th inning when Volstad took the mound. Those mistakes got hammered by the Braves hitters.
Jurgens hasn't elevated anything. Here's the 2-0.
Yeah, right now that's the difference in the two. He hasn't made many mistakes at all.
But Volstad was matching him, I think, pitch for pitch, stuff-wise, for the first 5-6 innings of this game.
2-1 pitch. Gabby Sanchez into center field. Jordan Schaefer covers a lot of ground out there, and he makes the catch. Greg Dobbs, Mike Stanton to follow for the Marlins at the bottom of the 7th. And it's the same old story for the Marlins. The inability to score. The Marlins now, with 1 out here in the 7th inning, have scored just 2 runs in their last 31 in the 3rd innings. And that's not going to win you any games. That's why this team has lost 7 in a row.
Those last 2 pitches to Gabby really illustrated Jurgens on the 2-0 pitch. Hit a sinker on the outside corner for strike 1, and then a cutter on that exact same location that got it on the end of the bat. So Gabby flew out to center field.
Braves are headed to Houston. The Marlins will welcome in Arizona. Tim Hudson opens up that series at Minute Maid. Dobbs with a soft liner. Alex Gonzalez runs it down.
Arizona in a scoreless tie in the 7th inning in Pittsburgh tonight.
How about the Pittsburgh Pirates? Good to see that Clint Hurdle has the Pirates competitive. Pittsburgh at an even 500 coming into play tonight. Toyota Trend yesterday, 1-year anniversary for Mike Stanton. 33 home runs, 7th during that span. Our Toyota Trend. Stanton has bounced out and popped out against Jurgens.
I think Mike's going to always be a guy who puts together streaks. You just want to see him, as he gets more experience, minimize the bad streaks.
That ball is high and deep and gone. 14th of the season. The Marlins are on the board, trailing at 3-1.
Well, that's why it's impressive when you see Mike Stanton hit one like this.
Our Coors Light cold hard blast.
Yep. Inside pitch, makes the mistake, hits the ball straight up in the air. But I tell you what, when he hits that nice 3 inches on the bat, I don't care how high up in the air it goes, it's going to go out of the ballpark.
It's only the 4th home run that Jurgens has allowed all year. John Buck, left field. It's deep. Hinsky. It's off the wall, and it's going to be a double. Almost back-to-back.
I thought we were going to be back-to-back here. You see him get it off the end just a little bit. Mike Stanton hits that ball, it goes out. John Buck off the wall for our Checkers double of the game.
And in 2 pitches, we saw Jurgens look like a backup slider that Stanton hit. That fastball that John Buck had a little bit too much of the plate that Jurgens wanted, and Buck loved it. But I agree, I thought it was back-to-back home runs.
Roger McDowell, the Atlanta pitching coach, out to talk to Jurgens.
Rich, the Marlins hadn't homered in 5 games. The last home run the Marlins hit was the grand slam of Brett Hayes.
Heck, the last lead the Marlins had was Saturday.
Second game of the Brewers series. The Marlins scored in the 1st inning, scored a run. They eventually would lose that game 3-2.
Now Bonifacio. Scott Cousins is pulled in on deck. That's the pitcher spot. Bonifacio singled his last time up against Jurgens. He misses away. And it's 1-0. Now George Sherrill is up for real, and so is Scott Linebrake.
And here's a Marlins situation that has been absent for quite some time now, piecing together these 2-out hits.
Into right field. It's a base hit. Here comes Buck, and he's going to score. And that is a 2-out RBI hit.
Those have been far and few between, and starting to piece it together nicely. A home run, a double. Bonifacio's second straight hit, and he's hit 2 balls hard.
Almost the same location as his single earlier in the game, down and just a little bit over middle of the plate. Tommy, when was the last time you had a 2-out RBI?
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, 2-out RBI, piecing together some hits in an inning.
The Marlins had Scott Cousins on deck, but it's Wes Helms who comes to the plate. Probably Edwin thinking, what here? That
I would say
it would have been George Sherrill for Cousins?
Possibly. That would be his thinking. And he'd rather have Wes against a righty than Scott Cousins against Sherrill. But still, Jurgen's only at 83 pitches.
This is one of those spots, too, where you'd love to have Bonifacio steal a bag, but if he gets caught, you burn the pinch hitter in Helms. And the Marlins are playing with a short bench already. They have just 4 reserves in this game. Brian Sanchez in the Marlins pen.
Small sample size. Wes is 1 for 3 in his career against Jurgens.
It's been a struggle this year for Helms against right-handers. Just 2 for 16. You see Bonifacio with his 3 stolen bases. Want to flesh it out even further. Helms 2 for 16 against righties. Cousins 0 for 8 against lefties.
Veteran, rookie, can throw that into the equation too.
Striking, it's 1-1. Helms, of course, a former Brave. Used to come to Atlanta to see his uncle Tommy Helms play when the Cincinnati Reds came to town to play the Braves. One and 2.
It's a family thing. Wes brings little Wes out to the ballpark early all the time.
Can wants a fastball. Runner goes in the air, right field. It's Young who makes the running catch. Marlins get on the board. Mike Stanton gets him there first with a long home run. 3-2. Ramirez and the Cubs into Philadelphia. Ryan Howard and the Phillies waiting for him. This week's telecast, Fox Saturday Baseball, is presented by Sprint, and it begins at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. Our Fox Sports Florida crew here in Miami tonight. Mike Stanton is homered. The Marlins have pushed across 2 runs, but trail the Braves 3-2. Brian Sanchez out of the Marlins pen. Rich Waltz along with Tommy Hutton. Jeff Conine joining us tonight in the booth. Craig Minervini down below. It's a 1-run game, and for the Marlins, 1-run games have been poisoned. 7-game losing streaks, 6 of them have been 1-run losses.
I'm going to give you a positive spin, though. At least the Marlins feel comfortable right now. They're in a 1-run game.
Brian Sanchez's job is to hold it at 1 run. Alex Gonzalez, Brian McCann, and Chipper Jones. Sanchez, this is low with that fastball.
You saw the batting average against 154. Lefties are hitting just 115 off Brian Sanchez, and righties 192.
High pop-up.
One of the unsung heroes of this bullpen the last 2 years has been Brian Sanchez.
Morrison calls Bonifacio off.
Runaway train, get out of the way, Bonnie.
No, you're right about that, Jeff. I mean, he has flown under the radar. He's not. Obviously, the Marlins are a team that doesn't get a lot of attention anyways. So if you're a middle reliever on this team, you're anonymous.
Anonymous, and they put him in every different inning except for the closer's role, and he's done an outstanding job. Everywhere they put him, he's done an outstanding job.
He had that spot start not too long ago. And he had a battle to make the club out of spring training.
Really did.
Sanchez out of Lamar University. The Marlins, ironically, have 2 pitchers from Lamar University.
Did not know that. Who else?
Clay Hensley. Sanchez misses away, and Sanchez is a great tale of perseverance. A guy that when he got a chance to pitch in the big leagues with the Nationals and with the Phillies, did not perform well. Had good numbers in the minor leagues. Got another shot with the Marlins, and as you pointed out, as soon as he put on a Marlin uniform, things changed. And he told us what changed was he trusted his stuff. He went back to pitching like he did in the minor leagues. He felt when he got to the big leagues he had to pitch better than he did in the minor leagues.
I think he's an example, too, of a guy who has worked at his craft. He was a starting pitcher, so he had to battle through, 3-4 different pitches, working on different stuff.
We were talking pitching with him, and he was talking about his forkball and also about the 1-seamer that he throws. We hear the term 2-seamer and 4-seamer. Sanchez throws a 1-seamer.
Interesting. Never heard that before.
That's a bolt to center. Coughlin runs it down in the triangle. McCann will settle for a double.
Well, only the 7th hit that Sanchez has allowed to a left-handed batter this year. And we've talked all series of how Brian McCann has hit the Marlins so well. Pitch out over the plate. Beautiful swing.
Got Chipper up and a chance to put him on base. And we'll see who goes after Freddie Freeman. You got Choate in the pen. You would expect, although Tommy, you just had the numbers, Sanchez against lefties. Choate's been lights out against lefties.
Yeah, he has. And you have Freeman, then Hinsky, even though Freddie Gonzalez may pinch hit for Hinsky. And Randy Choate has been unbelievable against lefties.
That's what they got him for. And he has done a great job.
Edwin Rodriguez on his way out. Randy Choate on his way in to face Freddie Freeman. First and second, 1 out, 1-run game. Here's a Marooney called to the pen.
When you need a car, truck, or van,
Top of the Marlins. Another one-run game for the Fish. Randy Choate out of the pen. Another offseason acquisition. You can see the rain starting to fall here in Miami.
Well, one of the huge things this year, the Marlins have had lefties, Mike Dunn, Randy Choate, who've been able to come in and retire lefties. And that was a problem the last couple of years.
Choate has been outstanding at it, and Dunn on the other side of it can get righties out also.
And we've talked about it in this division. You've got to have a left-handed presence in your bullpen. The Braves, especially now that Freeman is here. The Phillies, of course, with that trio up in Philadelphia. Utley, Howard, Ibanez. You got McCann, Hayward, and Freeman here in Atlanta. A 1-pitch. And Choate has faced a who's who of left-handed hitters this year, from Joey Votto to Andre Ethier, Jay Bruce, McCann, Ibanez, Loney. He and Prince Fielder had some good duels in the Brewers series.
Got the double play from Prince Fielder.
Only 2 lefties have hits against him this year. Pedro Alvarez of the Pirates and Brian McCann got him. That was in Atlanta back on the 14th. Part of our crack staff West Coast division, Aaron Charlton dropping that one on us, and Freddie Freeman goes down swinging.
I want to say that Aaron and I think alike, because I was trying to figure out who the 2 lefties were. And a lot of times he goes with the fastball. This time he gets Freeman with that breaking ball.
Just a very odd arm angle that a left-hander just doesn't see at all, and you can put movement on it like that. Equals success against lefties this year.
And once Freddie Gonzalez made the move with a right-handed bat, Edwin goes to his bullpen again.
Here comes Baden Hop, exit Choate, still 3-2. Another Maroonian call to the pen.
Truck or van, who you gonna call? Marooney!
Baden Hop comes in after Joe Mather was announced. Mather, the right-handed hitter, hitting for Eric Hinsky in the 8th. The Braves have runners first and second. 2 outs, 1-run game. Atlanta on top. First pitch, line foul.
This works out okay for Freddie Gonzalez anyway, because he probably, if his club hangs on to the lead, which they will, it probably would have made the move defensively with Mather and Hinsky.
Chipper Jones at first, Brian McCann at second. You don't have great speed on there for the Braves. Marlins have good throwing arms in left and in right.
Unfortunately for the Marlins, the Braves have a good throwing arm warming up in the bullpen.
They've got a few good throwing arms down there. And the Marlins have seen that three-headed monster of O'Flaherty, Venters, and Kimbrel in both ball games.
Those guys are all going to appear in 100 games too, it looks like.
Venters, his stuff is just, it's something you don't see very often. It's outstanding.
Now the Braves with two, Venters and Kimbrel, two power arms. O'Flaherty, a quality arm. He's kind of had the 7th inning. Venters has been getting the 8th and Kimbrel the 9th. Many feel that Venters may eventually be the closer. Kimbrel has blown 5 saves this year. But for the time being, it's Kimbrel who is closing. There's Ugla on deck. Count 3-1 to Mather. Three-1. Down the left field line. Foul. Three-2. Bowling Green product. Burke Badenhop.
A little bit of drizzle that we had a few minutes ago has subsided.
My trusty iPhone told me it was just a passing little tiny shower.
Tiny cell.
Nothing beyond it.
You've got the Doppler app.
I've got numerous Doppler apps on my phone.
Of course, won't need that next year.
How nice is that going to be?
Next year, you just need the app that opens and closes the roof.
I wonder if they'll give us one of those. You know, they have that app where you can start your car from like a whole nother area. Give us the app where we could open or close the roof.
We could have some fun with that, couldn't we?
The roof in the new ballpark is almost completely done. They're attaching the finishing fabric on the outside of the roof. Once that is all done, and then they complete the finish work under the roof. They've already got over 20,000 of the seats in. 3-2 coming to center field. Coghlan makes the catch. Marlins bullpen keeps it at a 1-run game. 3-2 Atlanta to the bottom of the 8th. Another 1-run ball game. Staying in the ball game for the Braves. Joe Mather, he's in right.
Yeah, we saw this move the other night. And then Young moves over from right field to left field.
As we expected, the pride of Walla Walla, Washington, Eric O'Flaherty is in.
It is a bullpen that you'll have to check on, and we'll get a chance to see as often as the Marlins play the Braves second half of the season, how they hold up, because they've been used a lot.
Yeah, you said Venters, O'Flaherty, and Kimbrel on pace to make 100 appearances apiece.
They had a guy that they used almost every night, Peter Moylan, who was on the disabled list.
Well, both Venters and O'Flaherty in the top 10 in the league in appearances.
O'Flaherty drafted by Seattle in the 6th round out of Walla Walla. Ground ball out to second off the bat of Chris Coghlan. Uggla takes care of him. Tickets of America poll, best gauge of a middle reliever. Inherited runners scored is leading right now. Whip, it's a good one. Walks and hits for innings pitched. 789-789. You two on your minor league circuit ever make a stop in Walla Walla, Washington?
I did, but it was a stop to refuel on the way back to Spokane.
When I played in Omaha in AAA, we didn't go to the Pacific Coast League. It was part of that AAA alliance that went kind of Midwest and East Coast. Toledo, Ohio.
Well, Walla Walla, I believe, was a rookie league.
Northwest League.
Northwest League, yeah. Maybe their most famous player, Ozzie Smith.
He was in Walla Walla?
He was in Walla Walla.
I just like saying that. Walla Walla?
That's the only year that Ozzie Smith played in the minor leagues. It was in the Northwest League. 68 games in Walla Walla. You want to say it again?
He hit a respectable 303 in Walla Walla.
To left, Young went back and now comes in and he won't get it. And Infante around first is in at second. Matt Young broke back and it cost him.
Yeah, even his speed couldn't make up for that mistake. Remember, he just shifted from right field to left field. And by trade, he's really a center fielder. Off the end of the bat a little bit, that'll fool a lot of outfielders. And see, Infante initially thought it was going to be caught, but because Young went back and then it kicked away from him, Infante was able to get to second base.
Yeah, if that ball sticks in his glove right there on the short hop, he doesn't get to second base. Scoring position.
So a double. The Marlins got a knock with a runner in scoring position in the 7th inning. Emilio Bonifacio driving in John Buck. And Logan Morrison takes a strike. Morrison tonight singled in the first. And twice he's bounced to the right side. Braves bullpen is quiet. Gabby Sanchez is on deck. Braves holding on to a 1-run lead. Quickly, it's 0-2. Steve Cishek in the Marlins pen.
Braves have that luxury as well with O'Flaherty and Venters. They don't have to match up. They're so good against lefties and righties that Freddie really has a lot of flexibility.
And then he has the third left-hander in George Sherrill.
Well, McCann set up outside for that pitch, and it was up and in. 0-2. Leading vote getter right now in the National League. At catcher is Brian McCann. Ooh.
Well, that time he stayed outside with the target, and O'Flaherty stayed outside with the pitch and didn't miss by much.
That looked like he actually caught
might
the corner.
have caught it, yeah. when you know a borderline pitch has been called a ball that maybe would have got you out of there, are you real alive on this next one?
That hits Morrison.
You're not expecting that, though.
No. That got him in a bad spot, too, right in the back of the elbow. I mean, right in the back of the arm. Boy, that's a paralyzer. Ugh. That,
yeah,
as we say, shall leave a mark.
Yeah, Lomo, knowing Lomo isn't going to rub it too much, but he feels it.
So it's Gabby Sanchez with runners in first and second. He gets sawed off on a fastball, a cutter that came in on his hands. 92 miles an hour.
I think the good thing about this, especially if the Marlins are able to do something against O'Flaherty, they were able to do something last night against Kimbrel. Linebrink starts to get loose. That in itself builds a little confidence because you know you're going to see these guys a whole lot more.
Well, Flaherty isn't hitting many targets right now. Every time McCann sets up outside, the pitch is inside. He sets up inside, the pitch is outside.
It's what you call an uncomfortable at bat when you're up there and he throws one at your skull and the next pitch is on the outside black.
Got a lefty on deck in Dobbs and then Mike Stanton. 1-1. Popped him up. Uggla's out. Infield fly is called. And so Dobbs now will come up against O'Flaherty. Edwin Rodriguez doesn't have a whole lot of options on that lineup card he's looking at.
You know what my thought was when I saw Edwin pondering and looking. He's looking for Jeff Conine. He's looking for Conine on that list. He's not there. Right-hander against O'Flaherty. Remember, it was O'Flaherty who came in and pitched a third of an inning and struck out Mike Stanton.
That was in game one. Stanton lined a pitch into right field last night in the ninth.
Yeah, O'Flaherty basically threw a fastball right by him. It was right down the middle, 3-2. And then Kimbrel last night didn't get away with it. You could tell he had slider in the back of his mind, but he had enough on it to get through.
And that strikeout was last night. O'Flaherty struck out Stanton in the seventh. Stanton got Kimbrel in the ninth.
I kind of thought that's probably why Kimbrel went with the fastball. He has a better fastball than O'Flaherty. He figured he could throw it by Stanton as well.
There comes to a point in an at-bat where you know a pitcher's just going to go with one pitch.
Dobbs off of his bat, out at first. And the inning is over in a bizarre check swing. And so the Marlins leave a couple on. then your next thought would be maybe it hit Dobbs. And as it turns out, it apparently hit either the knob of the bat.
I think it's right above his hand.
He did not swing. And so if it hits his hand and he doesn't swing, by rule, it's a hit by pitch, but Dobbs didn't sell it that way. Dobbs immediately sprinted down the first baseline.
It's almost like you have to do that.
You sell it.
Yeah, well.
I mean, if you're a good actor, you know, and you know it's a.
Well, actually, yeah, if you try to sell it, then you can get help from the first base ump or the third base ump in his case.
So it's an enormous out to get.
It's like that check swing that gets by the catcher with. You don't know whether to go or stay.
Yeah.
Here's Ugla now. Dan takes inside from Badenhop. Ugla's struggles have been mighty, and it looks like we were talking about Venters closing. It looks like Venters is getting ready for the bottom of this inning. Ugla breaks his bat.
Now remember, Kimbrel, actually both Kimbrel and Venters have worked the last couple of nights.
Count 2-2 with Ugla up. Then you got Matt Young. With runners in scoring position, Dan Ugla has the second lowest average in baseball at 107. Obviously nobody's on base here, but that illustrates the struggles that he's had as he comes into this ball game hitting just 170.
Dan, to me, just looks so out of sorts at the plate. No matter what the pitch is thrown, he doesn't have good timing on any of the swings that I've seen the last couple of games.
It's kind of the description when we were in San Francisco, knowing that they're good friends. I asked Cody Ross, had he talked to Dan, and said, yeah, he said he really feels uncomfortable. That was the word he used.
That's how tough this game is, folks. You know, Dan's got thousands of at-bats in the big leagues, and you think, all right, once you've got that many, you get up to the plate and you know exactly what you're doing and you know how to feel comfortable and get in there. But we're talking about a over 2-month extended slump that he's been in, and he just cannot get out of it.
Of course, Ugla, who had career highs in homers and RBIs last year. Outside corner, struck him out. Marlin fans let him know about it. Badenhop gets his second out of the game.
Yeah, he runs some pitches in, and he puts him away with that fastball, maybe on the outside corner.
A little bit outside.
Well, that's about where that pitch was last night to Gabby Sanchez that ended the game.
And you know what? When you're hitting 170, they call every one of those.
Here's Matt Young now. Badenhop's breaking ball misses low. So it was Kimbrel last night who blew the save, and it looks like Venters getting ready in the Braves bullpen.
Yeah, Kimbrel faced 6 batters last night, so he got a lot of work and threw a lot of pitches.
Not a bad guy to be your alternate closer.
No.
And that's what the Braves knew that going into spring training. With the retirement of Billy Wagner, they felt pretty good about the back of their pen with both of those guys, Venters and Kimbrel.
Well, there was some thought, I remember reading a lot about this in the spring, that those two guys would battle in the spring for the closer role, but I think Freddie knew all along he was going to start the year with Kimbrel. Venters does have 1 save this year.
Young played his college ball at the University of New Mexico. It's going to be a tough play. Badenhop's there, and they got him, even with Young's speed.
What were the Marlins pitchers doing out here yesterday early? PFP.
Little pitcher's fielding practice.
When you see the first baseman leave the bag to go after the ball with a speedy runner, you know it's going to be close, and the pitcher has to get there in a hurry. Great job by Badenhop, and a perfect little soft toss by Infante.
You know, us hitters often give the pitchers some grief about fielding their position and not doing so well sometimes, but Badenhop did a great job.
Marlins are down a run going to the bottom of the ninth, the position they've been in seemingly for a week. Mike Stanton coming up, Johnny Venters coming in. Florida, when you need a car, truck, or van, who are you going to call? 1-877-MAROONY. By Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. By your South Florida Chevy dealers. 1.4-liter turbocharged engine and 6-speed automatic transmission. The all-new Chevrolet Cruze. See your local Chevy dealer. And by Bad Teacher. In theaters, June 24th. 3-2 ball game. Braves on top. Marlins need a run to keep playing tonight. Mike Stanton, Johnny Venters. And that darting fastball at 93 miles an hour gets him strike one.
It has a tremendous movement. It tails away, but then also cuts in and has some serious sink to it. That one tailed away.
When you look at quality major leaguers take swings off fastballs like that, you know some special things are happening on the way to the plate.
Quickly, it's 0-2. That one is outside. Venters, 30th round pick in 03 out of Indian River Community College here in Florida. He had Tommy John surgery in 2005. Last year, a dynamite start with the Braves. Look at the pattern against Stanton. 79 appearances, an ERA of under 2. Foul tip. Mike finally gets a piece. Stanton, John Buck, Emilio Bonifacio, the bottom of the ninth.
And continued to pound away to Mike Stanton.
Stanton, a ground ball in the hole at short. Backing up Gonzalez. Long throw. Got him. Alex Gonzalez. And there's one out. Here comes Buck.
Still one of the best in the business.
You know, so much that he learned from Perry Hill about the footwork. And in order to make that play, he got himself balanced. The feet got him in a good position. And then he has that strong arm to complete the play.
He has one of the most accurate arms and off-balance throws I've ever seen.
And an easy throw for a first baseman to catch. Looks like it's a nice throw.
It is.
John Buck takes a strike. Doubled in the 7th, lined out in the 5th, struck out in the 2nd. He swings at a pitch in the dirt.
So the fastball isn't tough enough. He has to drop a slider on John Buck.
A slider at 87. That starts off your waist and comes down at your toes. I was talking with Wes Helms the other day about Venters. He said it's the toughest, most difficult lefty he's ever faced.
Well, we had a conversation up here with Hall of Famer Don Sutton, who's done the radio broadcasts for the Braves for quite some time. He said Venters' stuff is so good that even if he didn't throw the slider, he could almost just say, here comes the fastball. It moves so much.
Much like a Mariano Rivera.
Yeah, he compared it to that from the left side with that kind of movement.
He's out in front of Buck. 1-2. Check swing on that one. Did not go. So 2 check swings. Buck has either held or been fortunate, or a little of both.
You get a little break. You're the catcher. You're back there with the umpires a lot.
Broken bat. Uggla's out, and he makes the catch. So the Marlins are down to their last out, and here comes Bonifacio. A 7-game losing streak for the Florida Marlins. 6 of the 7 losses by 1 run. And here they are again in the bottom of the 9th, down a run and down to their last out. Bonifacio has 2 hits from the other side of the plate. This was a Jair Jurgen start. And the right-hander from Curacao is in line for win number 8.
Well, I sure would like to see if the crack staff could come up with any team that's ever lost 8 games in a row, and 7 of those have been by 1 run.
Niner, we could have that for you to talk about tomorrow on the pregame.
And if they're really good, maybe the postgame tonight.
That's right.
You know, the Diamondbacks had a stretch this year of 1-run losses that was pretty significant.
How are you going to make it out to Craig so quickly?
I've done the Ironman. I'm going to get on my running shoes and take it around.
Here's the 2-1. Are you going to swim, run, or bike?
Well, I'm going to run.
And by the way, if this lead does hold, Jurgens will join Halladay, Correa, Hamels, and Gallardo as 8-game winners.
2-2 to Bonifacio. He went after it, and Venter shuts the door. The Braves sweep the Marlins, and the losing streak is at 8. 7 of the 8 have been 1-run losses. Painful.
Very frustrating, very painful. They've seen some tremendous pitching during the time. They've also had opportunities to